Hi guys, this is GSN.com and I'm here with the Nokia 5.1 Plus, also known internationally as the Nokia X5. So we're dealing here with a mid-range handset, basically a budget phone that comes with Android 1, which means a pretty clean Android with a promise of fast updates in the future. Now the price tag goes as low as $150, at least on the Indian market, for example. The handset has a dual back camera, is pretty elegant, it's got a fingerprint scanner at the back, and even though you may not see it, it actually has a notch at the top side. Okay, so let's get to it. This is GSN.com and I'm here with a review of the Nokia 5.1 Plus. So first things first, we got glass at the front, glass at the back, and a metal panel in between, although it feels totally like plastic and it's very glossy. Also the handset is pretty slippery, so I would say decent grip, but I've seen better, and thanks to all the gloss and the sides, it feels a bit slippery. Now the buttons provide a pretty okay feedback, and the measurements include an 8.1mm thickness and a 160-gram weight. Now other than that, I would say that the one-hand usage is reasonably comfy. Just take care that you'll get used to the form factor and you won't let it slip from your hand. It's pretty but it's also rather generic nowadays. Many companies have adopted this format. Now on the display front, we're tackling here a 5.8 incher with a resolution of 1520 over 720 pixels, which, if I remember correctly, was also available on the Motorola One. It's a 2.5D glass panel with a notch, 19:9 aspect ratio, IPS LCD, and I would say that the bezels are big-ish, not the biggest in the world, but still pretty big. Now let's go to the video player and play our typical test clip. Here we go. Now, things to say about the actual screen. I would say the color calibration is okay, brightness checks out, wide view angles, and even the contrast was decent in full sunlight. So bright, but also a tad bit too white for my tastes. Now we also did a bunch of measurements. You know us, we like tests, and boy do we. And we have them here. Now these are the pixels of the screen under the microscope. This is an RGB stripes pixel arrangement, and the top brightness level was 404 lux units. It's okay for a mid-range phone, it's quite good. It beats the LG Q7, Huawei P10 Lite and Huawei Mate 10 Pro, but it's below the Motorola Moto G6 Play and the Xiaomi Mi A1. Now settings for the screen are rather stock and typical: adaptive brightness, wallpaper, font size, ambient display, and that's about it. Ambient display is sort of like, I don't know, maybe something like glance or always on display, but in a more minimalistic version. Now we move on to the hardware. When we're talking about hardware, we're talking a MediaTek CPU, which is something you don't see every day on a Nokia phone. Now the CPU is a MediaTek Helio P60 octa-core, accompanied by 3GB of RAM, 32GB of storage, and also micro SD card slot. Luckily there's no lag here, so we didn't suffer from any trace of lag. Everything ran fine. We played a bunch of games, we did a bunch of updates and app installs, listened to music, play some videos, and alternated between several applications. And the good news is the handset can run Asphalt 9. Yes, it can. And I've seen people who were running PUBG on it, although I would recommend playing PUBG Mobile Lite on it, not the full version. Not very sure that the CPU can take it. Well, it should take it. I've seen phones with the same CPU take it, but not with the max level of detail. Okay, so as you can see, pretty good frame rate, checks out. No problems in gaming, nice textures and all that. So for mid-range gaming and some Asphalt 9, it should be enough. Now, as usual, we did a bunch of benchmarks and we're here to show them to you. I'm talking about the standard affair and Tutu and so forth. Now let me just look them up. So I'm going to start off with Antutu 7. In this one we beat HTC U11 Live, Nokia 6.1. We score below the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M1 and the Xiaomi Mi A2. And now we did also a bunch of other tests. Let's check them out. We also have this one here, which from what I remember should be base OS 2.0. It beats the Samsung Galaxy A9 2018, which is pretty impressive, and the Xperia X-A2. We also have some slingshot tests, in case you're wondering about the prowess of the GPU. Well, here we beat the Galaxy A8 2018, once again impressive, and the Motorola Moto One scored below the Cat S61 and Xperia X-A2. So basically we're gravitating around the area of a Huawei P9 or the Motorola One. That's where it's at. Now we also did other tests, so temperature tests. 37.5 degrees Celsius achieved when playing Riptide. There's no overheating then. And 35.2 degrees Celsius achieved when running GFX Bench. So no overheating again. Now we also did a heat map thanks to the good old Cat S61 FLIR camera sensor, and here it is. Some heat here in this area, but nothing major and pretty decent heat dissipation. We continue now with the battery. It's a 3060 mAh unit, and let's see how we did in our tests. As usual, I'm going to start with the HD video playback in a loop. Now with that one, we are able to achieve 12 hours and 51 minutes of continuous HD video playback time. It beats Huawei Mate 20 Pro, it beats Galaxy S9 Plus, scores below the iPhone XR, Galaxy S8 and the S7. Now we continue with the battery, and this time we're going to talk about a continuous usage test. Basically it's a good old PC mark, and in this one we scored 9 hours and 2 minutes. It's satisfying, it's solid, beats Motorola One, beats Huawei Mate 20 Pro, scores below the Asus Zenfone 5 and the Pocophone F1. Charging will require 2 hours and 4 minutes. It's a bit long nowadays, but after 1 hour you're set. You're at 61%. And the typical battery saving options are here. They're battery saver and battery optimization, and that's about it. I want to go back to the display one bit. I searched everywhere, believe me, everywhere, for the way to properly see the notch here. And you can't, at least on the European version I have here. I looked up everything. I went to accessibility, users account, security, display. I went to the editing of the quick settings. There's no way to separate the icons here from the notch. Anyway, that's only one thing I wanted to highlight. Now we go to the acoustics. Things are pretty straightforward. There's a speaker here at the bottom outputting the sound. It's pretty easy to cover with your fingers in landscape mode, and you're going to use obviously Google Play Music with its typical equalizer like genre options, FX booster, 5 custom channels, bass boost and all that. Now here goes the music. Okay, so some ideas about this experience. I would say that the speaker is pretty loud. I'm satisfied with the strength of the speaker. It's easy to cover in landscape. It triggers a strong vibration of the case. The bass is quite solid. All the notes and voices are heard okay. We do have an audio jack at the top. We do have FM radio, and we do have a bunch of cheap plastic headphones, which you saw in the unboxing. Now let's see how we're doing on the decibel meter front. We have such a thing. We achieved 81 decibels with a typical acoustic sample, 81.6 actually. It means we're beating the Huawei P20 Lite and the Nexus 6P, but we're staying below the Zenfone 4 and the All-View Soul X5 Pro. At the same time, in the game Riptide, we got to as high as 101 decibels, which is pretty impressive and solid. It beats the Galaxy Note 8 and the Huawei P20 Pro, and it stays below the Motorola One. Overall pretty okay acoustics, too bad that I can easily cover the speaker. On the camera front, we get an 8 megapixel selfie camera here and a dual back camera. You can already see the flash. It's a 13 plus 5 megapixel combo with depth capture, face detection autofocus, some AI, and once again LED flash. We have Google Lens, we have a picture-in-picture, dual pictures and panorama, manual mode, AR masks and all that. I want to skip the interface and show you the photographs because they're actually surprising. Ever since the Nokia 7 Plus, no other Nokia phone has surprised me positively. Nokia 8, disappointment. Nokia 8 Sirocco, less of a disappointment. Nokia 6.1, disappointment. So basically, only the Nokia 5 and Nokia 7 Plus were nice over the past year. Now guess what? Nokia 5.1 Plus, a huge surprise. Now we have a pretty good HDR, excellent colors all around, great clarity, perfect close-ups. I would even go as far as to say flagship level close-ups, and the bokeh shots are not bad. They don't have as much of a softer bokeh. Some people want a softer bokeh, they have a hard one, big contrast between the foreground and the background, but it's okay by me. I would go as far as to say that this phone can beat the Samsung Galaxy A6 2018 and the A6 Plus, most of the Galaxy J's, and perhaps fight on equal terms with the LG Q7. It can also fight the Motorola Moto G6, and on its better days the G6 Plus. So excellent close-ups, nice texture and pretty colors, good clarity all around. You can see here all the colors we've taken and the shots we've taken, the bokeh. I'm happy with all of them, as you can see. Even the details are okay, believe it or not. The worst thing about this phone is that it doesn't take good zoom, so if you zoom into shots you'll be underwhelmed for sure. We have that here, distance, then zoom. You can clearly see things are a bit wrong. Great clarity, it beats Nokia 6, Nokia 6.1, Nokia 5, but poor zoom, not bad details. Pretty small panorama, and let's see some selfies. We also took those. I prefer those without the hat. So here we go. Now the selfies are, I would say, okay. The background is pretty poor, it's too white, and even my face is a bit too white at times, but I think that the texture, the color and the details are okay. But then again, too white, perhaps because of the snow. It looks like an oil painting, not an actual human face, but I'll take it. At least it's clear. Biggest surprise since Nokia 7 Plus, once again, didn't expect it. These are daytime shots. Let's go to the low light ones, because we also did those. As you can see, it was snowing. It was a blizzard outside, which may be a circumstance for a poor capture. Okay, so here we are with the nighttime shots. Let's check them out. So we're dealing here with poor details for sure, but the colors were pretty much okay. I don't see any aberrations, any weird pink, any weird orange. It's all regular yellow, pretty big halos. Darker than usual shots, I'll give it that much, but the clarity, even the details and the colors were spot on, I would say. For this price of $150, I am pretty content. It cannot face the powerful lights of this front of the building, but for the budget area, it passes the test. It can fight a Motorola Moto G6 maybe, the LG Q7, and I would say that the main drawback here is probably the darkness, but even that's not a deal breaker. Now let's talk video. Okay, so to make things simple, I'm going to resort to a typical video player. So here we go, going to this one here. We have our videos here, and believe it or not, even the videos surprised me. So not just the photos, which means it's no coincidence, the camera is actually good. Here we go. So it's full HD, it's MP4, and it does refocus a bit too often for my taste. It's also a bit too white, too well lit, a bit overexposed in the background, but solid colors, solid clarity. 29 frames per second, 17 mega per second. I would say pretty good overall. Some refocus, strong wind during the winter, but it handles itself pretty well. You can catch the kids screaming while they're sleeping on slopes. Poor zoom, just like the photos. I would compare it to the Xperia XA1, which also overexposed stuff. Actually not bad. And believe it or not only the colors and clarity were spot on, but also the electronic image stabilization. Check this out. Walking around during the blizzard, the microphone barely handles it. Lots of ice to sleep on. I didn't. Here we go, walking around. Ever since the iPhone 6 and 6S, haven't been impressed by the electronic stabilization, but here I am, being impressed. Not bad. If it weren't for the refocus, it would be in the league of an Xperia XA, which is a big league to be. Okay, so we have even more shots here. A bit of overexposure, but nothing serious. If you take into account the snow and the strong sun, it kind of makes sense. So excellent in my book. Okay, and of course, we also played around with the selfie camera. Now, not the best in the world, but I had the sun behind me, so that's a thing. I would say it's so-so, it's decent. Yes, I know it's winter, so not more than decent. Okay, so these are daytime videos, totally blown away by the electronic image stabilization. Let's check out some nighttime shots. Of course, things aren't as good during the night. They're actually very grainy. There's lots of refocus, there's flicker when moving around. The colors and clarity are decent. The zoom remains poor. And once again, I have to say it was the winter, and in some of the shots it was snowing badly. Snow everywhere. At least you have a decent panning. No motion blur. But yes, there's refocus. There's even more refocus at night. It feels like something out of a 2016 phone, 2017 maybe, but not more than that. So Achilles heel, certainly nighttime capture, strong suit, electronic stabilization. Now, if you want to talk about the web browser, it's of course good old Chrome, and let's access gsno.com. Here we go. We also have some benchmarks for it. You'll see them in the full text review. If you want input, you got the standard and stock keyboard, which does swipe. On the connectivity front, I can tell you about the two microphones on board. There's 4G LTE category 4, Wi-Fi A, B, GN, AC, Bluetooth 4.2, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, BDS, and Galileo. There is an USB Type-C port at the bottom, dual SIM card slots. The calls were loud and clear, and of course, I cannot leave you without a speed test. Here we go. You can see here all the values that you need to see. Now on 4G we're at 109 megapers downloads and 48.4 megapers uploads. On Wi-Fi we got to 245 over 24.7 in download and upload respectively. Now I feel that it's time to talk about the software. This is clean cut Android Oreo 8.1. Stock Android 1 with the promise of fast updates. There's a Google feed to the leftmost side with the useful info and the news. Press the home screen and you got wallpapers, stock widgets and home settings. Multitasking is done with the carousel, but you can also split the screen if you want to in two. Okay, and other than that, drop down with a swipe down, notifications and quick settings, nothing out of the ordinary. Here in the settings, everything is stock again: connectivity, battery, display, sound, storage, security. You can swipe on the fingerprint scanner at the back to navigate. And speaking of it, the actual usage of the fingerprint scanner has a mediocre speed but pretty precise authentication. On the pre-installed apps list, I actually counted them all. There's 25 of them and they're stock. There's Duo, Files, FM Radio, Gmail, Google, Maps, Keep, the Play Suite, there's YouTube, Support and Wallpaper, and that's about it. Well folks, I guess it's time for the verdict. So on the Pro side, it's a pretty elegant phone. It's got stock Android Oreo. It's got an okay display in my book. The benchmarks also check out for me. Solid battery, actually above expectations. Good acoustics and surprising camera. To be honest, very surprising camera in electronic stabilization, clarity and colors. Now on the cons side, I would say it's still a pretty slippery phone. Has poor headphones in the mix, poor zoom in photo and video, refocus when filming. I cannot for the life of me figure out how to deactivate the notch, which is not something necessarily bad. The notch hiding, I mean. There is no Android Pie in the mix. We have a slow shutter when you're using the camera. Forgot to mention that, but here we are. The camera shutter is slow. You have to wait a bit before the picture is actually taken. You can take the next one. And it needs to have this price forever. So in some countries it's actually more expensive. $150 is the good price. So this ends the cons list. So the cons were slippery, poor headphones, poor zoom, refocus, notch, no Android Pie, slow shutter. For me, this has got to be the biggest surprise in the mid-range area of all 2018. Yes, I said it. Nokia 7 Plus was also a surprise. This is also a surprise in the camera department. It beats Samsung Galaxy A6 2018, J6 2018, so that's very important. It's pretty elegant, has a solid battery, pretty nice acoustics, and could bury a Motorola Moto G6. So that's no small thing to ignore. I think that you can easily buy it and you won't regret it. After all, it has the power of a Huawei P9 according to benchmarks. And I've seen people playing PUBG on it, so not actually bad in performance. This has been the review of the Nokia X5 or the Nokia 5.1 Plus here at gsndom.com. Bye bye.